But let's move on to what you've been playing. I'm going to start with a game that's initially I didn't know what this game was. I thought it was completely brand new, but I don't know if it actually is brand new. It apparently it's sort of a remake or a port or something, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade: Wrath of the Mutants. Tell me about it.
So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Wrath of the Mutants. It's an arcade game that came out in 2017. So based on TMNT 2012, which is, as far as I'm concerned, probably in terms of television, the best incarnation of the Turtles, I think. I really enjoyed 2012 a lot.
Okay.
So Raw Thrills is a company that's still out there making these sort of big budget arcade games for the modern age. They did that Cruisin' Blast game for Nintendo.
They're the ones behind this. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that Cruisin' Blast game rules. I love Cruisin' Blast. It's one of those things because this is also published by GameMill, which is GameMill has been around for decades at this point, and it's more garbage than greatness because like GameMill is the company responsible for publishing Big Rig's over the road truck racing game that is considered one of the worst video games of all time. But at the same time, they published for home consoles because they also like to just scoop up licensing now. That's sort of their thing. They're sort of a modern day THQ in that way. Or LJN is probably more likely.
Remember,
Raw Thrills made this game and released it to arcades in 2017, which nobody played it because, like, arcades, like, how often do you visit a Dave and Buster's? Like, I'm lucky enough, I have a pretty decent arcade near me that got this game, so I got to play this game when it was still brand new in arcades. And so in order to get to my full feelings about this game, we got to kind of go back even further to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles original arcade game, because this game is kind of a remake of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles original arcade game. Ninja Turtles came out at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in overall came out at the perfect time. It came out like it reached its peak in the mid 80s when video games were also kind of peaking. So like Transformers didn't really luck out that way. They kind of came to prominence during like, the crash of video games, early 80s. But by the time when Ninja Turtles started, there was no expectations for merch because it was just an edgy indie comic book. Things like Transformers and stuff was created with the idea of merch behind it. So when Ninja Turtles becomes a child's property packed with merch, like it came out with 2 video games in the same year. One of them the NES game, and then the arcade game. They came out in the same year. The arcade game is still to this day probably the best.
So great. Yeah.
So great. It's great to go back to, and there's nostalgia glasses that go with that.
Yeah.
But that's the advantage that Ninja Turtles arcade game has. Like, you can re-release it in those packages or an Xbox Live Arcade. You completely ruin a lot of the gaming experience with it because you take away the sort of credits system. You just push a button and you put a new quarter in, as opposed to actually paying physical money to play the game. So you can burn through it, but at the same time, you and I have a nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
It's not about beating the game. It's about playing the game. It's about remembering the fucking bowling alley that you played it in or whatever, or the arcade or the pizza parlor or whatever. So when you get to play that again, you have that thing. This game suffers from all of the problems that playing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game has today, but with zero of the nostalgia factor because this was an arcade game that nobody really played. Sure. It came out at a bad time. It came out at the time where there was no arcades, and there still are no arcades. But so you have to play this as a brand new game, but you strip away all of what makes an arcade game hard, which is money. So these games only take an hour to beat. Like I got this code, I downloaded the game, I had beat it from start to finish within 1 hour.
It was funny because I had we got the code from the
Yeah.
PR rep, and I sent it over to you, and I thanked him, for sending us the code.
Yeah.
And then he replied back a little bit later in the afternoon. He said, "Yeah, no problem. Let us know when the review goes live." And I said, "Oh, by the way, JJ has already beaten it."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was later that afternoon.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, like even if you play it on the harder difficulties,
Sure,
you still get to continue ad nauseum. I mean, they have ways to, make it harder for yourself, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I'm not going to say it's bad. I like this game. I really do like this game. It plays well. It plays exactly like the original Ninja Turtles arcade game. It has all of the same exact kind of levels.
Yeah.
Like it has all of the same gimmicks.
They all scroll the same. Okay,
they all
same gimmicks.
Same. You have a surfing level. You have a skateboarding level. It has the stuff where you can pick up weapons and throw them.
What are you playing this on, by the way?
PS5.
Okay, so yeah, which one?
It has you remember in the Turtles arcade game where you could hit a fire hydrant?
Yep.
And it would shoot the cap off, and you can use that as a that happens in this game. It's like everything's there that you expect.
There it is, the fire hydrant. Yeah.
It plays. It's clearly what if the Ninja Turtles. What if they made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012, and that's what they did. Everything's kind of the same. Now, this version of it is not the same as the arcade version. This is not a direct port. They added 3 levels and 6 bosses to this.
Okay, all right.
So because the original game was very short, it was 3 levels. So it's a total of 6 levels now.
So it went from being a half-hour game to an hour game. Okay.
So and they added more VO. It's got the original voice cast, so it's got Sean Astin is in it. And stuff.
Wow,
so,
amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so you have the original voice cast. It's even got Gilbert Gottfried in it as Krang Prime, which is it has to be the last thing he ever did.
Yeah, the last thing he did. Yeah.
But yeah, and they added many more bosses. Like I said, they added 6 bosses total of this game. But there's not a lot of variation with the bosses. It all feels like the fights are exactly the same, which sucks. But they are just kind of bonuses anyways, in its own little sense. But it's such a weird package because I really do like it, but I also don't like this being somebody's first experience. Is this really short? I don't like to bring up price, but $30 for it would cost you $30 to beat this game in the arcade. No, because this was a $1 arcade game.
Oh yeah, back at that right time. Yep.
Yeah, and it's brutally hard. It is brutally hard, but you don't notice it when you're don't have to worry about the money aspect. When you're having to pay money, you are super focused on not dying because you want your dollar to go as far as you can. This game is very hard because it needs to be. It's an arcade game especially from 2017. Sure. To their credit, and this is one thing I'll also say, the stuff that they added, you would never be able to tell they added. They blended it all really, really well. Okay. Even new voice lines and stuff. You cannot tell which ones were from 7 years ago and which ones are from last year that they would have recorded in the studio or whatever. So they did a really good job at making this game. It's a good package. I like the aesthetic, but how nostalgic are you for Ninja Turtles and how nostalgic are you for these kinds of arcade games? You won't have that level of nostalgia getting Turtles in Time on Xbox Live Arcade or something, which or whatever. So because this game 10 years ago, 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, would have been an Xbox Live Arcade game. I mean, let's just be honest let's just be honest with ourselves here. And I'm not saying this to say they have no right charging $30. I'm just saying this is something that would have been $15, $20, probably $20 and that's fine as an Xbox Live Arcade, small little downloadable thing. So it's a good game. I like it.
Yep.
I don't know if I necessarily recommend it. Like, you have to be a Turtles diehard, like you or I, to really get
You have
any.
to have
Yeah.
plowed through all of the Turtles collections and games
Yeah.
that have
Did you
come
beat
out.
Did you beat Shredder's Revenge, and did you beat
Right.
the Cowabunga collection? Then, like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is for you. You will enjoy it if you beat every single game in the Cowabunga collection. This game is for you. You will enjoy this game. If you're
It
just
doesn't look so. Is it like? Are there issues at all? Is it competent? Is there
I didn't
function?
have.
Is okay.
Yeah, I didn't have any. There was no crashes. There was no freezes.
Okay.
There was no weird, like, the physics felt bad here or whatever. I like. I think it's a little floatier than you kind of want from, like, a Ninja Turtles arcade game. It doesn't feel like it has the same level of weight, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
the turtles don't feel heavy, and that's probably my biggest gripe with this. But it's also an arcade game that's it's trying to be fast, because like that Turtles TMNT 12 was a much faster paced cartoon than the 80s show or whatever, or like the live action movies or whatever. So like they go hand in hand with one another. Like, they wanted this game to move faster because this generation of Turtles moved faster. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.